Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and today we're here to talk about some metal detectors. Now, I do a lot of metal detecting for gold, and so today we're going to talk about the world's most powerful metal detector. And we're going to define that, what that means and everything. I get a lot of questions about metal detectors for gold because I do a lot of metal detecting for gold. In fact, I kind of consult for some of the companies that manufacture them sometimes. They want to know what people are interested in. Well, I get asked, what's the most sensitive metal detector? What will see the smallest gold? What will go the deepest? What's the deepest detecting metal detector? What's the cheapest? I did one a little while ago on what's the lowest cost gold detector that really has the sensitivity to do the job. So today we're talking about the world's most powerful metal detector. Now I want to say before we even get started, this is not a sponsored video. Nobody's paying me to do this, and the company that makes this detector, they don't even know I'm doing it, and I'm not really planning on telling them. We're going to talk about the advantages of this detector, and we're going to talk about the disadvantages, because to tell you the truth, there is no such thing as a perfect detector that can do anything and everything perfectly and just is nothing but good. All of them have their advantages and their disadvantages, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff today. Now you might ask, what do I mean by the most powerful metal detector? Well, I mean a combination of both super depth and sensitivity to small stuff. I mean, I ain't talking about a detector that can see really small stuff, but can also see stuff really deep. That's the power of metal detecting, is to be able to see stuff and see it deep, but not necessarily have it have to be, the size of an engine block or something in order to see it deep. You want to be able to have great penetration and sensitivity to smallish targets. That's what nugget detecting is all about. Now, in order to be qualified for me to consider it as the world's most powerful detector, it has to be something that's publicly available. I mean, I'm not really interested in something that's only available to the military, or if you're some super secret, top secret spy or something like that. It has to be something that, anybody who has the money can go out and make a purchase of. Now, speaking of having the money, this detector is not cheap, okay? If you want the most powerful metal detector, you're gonna pay some bucks for it. Think of it like other hobbies. I mean, if you want the world's best set of golf clubs, that's not going to cost you 20 bucks. You're going to pay a lot more than that for it. If you want the world's best bass fishing boat, that ain't going to be cheap. You want a super powerful race car that you can take down to the drag strip and win races with. That's not going to be cheap. So I did already a video, and I'm going to put a link to it right here, about the lowest cost metal detector that's made for nuggets and has the oomph and sensitivity to be a good gold detector. I did already a video on that, and I put a link to it there. And if you're interested in low cost detectors, there you go, that's the one. So, there you go, that's the video you want to see. But if you're interested in sheer power, what is the most powerful detector out there? Well, let's take a look at that and take a look at the different features of it. The most powerful metal detector actually has its own special technology. Most detectors that are used out there in the field are of a technology called VLF. It stands for very low frequency. It's also called sometimes induction balance. It's basically a technology where it's constantly inputting a signal to the coil, and you basically have a transmit coil and a receive coil, and you're looking for a signal on the receive coil. The transmit coil transmits the signal into the ground. Now the other less common but used a lot by prospectors, less common in the relic world for sure, but not less common in the prospecting world, is what they call pulse induction metal detectors. And these are very powerful detectors that have great ability to ignore ground noise and that kind of stuff. But the world's most powerful detector has its own technology. It's called ZVT, or zero voltage technology. Now, maybe you'll ask, if it's zero voltage, does it need a battery? Well, actually it does. It doesn't mean that it runs on no voltage. It means it has to do with the cycle of the transmit and receive and the power of that. But it has this zero voltage technology, and it has way more windings on the receive coils than any other detector. I mean, by far, like 10 or 50 times more than other detectors. And what that does is when a signal goes into the ground and then it energizes the nugget or whatever that you're looking for, and that sends its own signal back to the detector, well, having a whole lot of windings there will make it more easy for the detector to see that very weak, minuscule signal that the target puts back. And if the target is teeny tiny, or if the target is down deep, it's going to be producing a weak signal. So that's important. And like I say, this own special technology, no one else has it yet. This world's most powerful detector has its own unique technology. Now it has a lot of other features, and let's talk about those right now. It has built-in wireless audio. Now, you know, when you're going along, especially in forest areas, because I do some detecting in areas that are heavily bushy or foresty, you know, you've got a headphone cable going to your detector. Man, it's easy for that to get caught on a bush or caught on a tree branch or something like that. It's a pain in the neck. And I have actually broken metal detectors going through the brush and having it catch and the like yank and either pulls it off your head or it just breaks the cable. So you having a wireless technology is really good. Now, most people have heard of Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is a common thing, but there's a problem with Bluetooth and metal detecting, because you can get little Bluetooth transmitters and Bluetooth headphones, and you think, well, that could do the job. But the problem is there's a delay in Bluetooth. So if you're swinging your metal detector, what will happen is as you swing over the target, the Bluetooth will sound over here. So it'll go beep. Well, it's beeping over here. Then you swing back over it, beep, beeping over here now, beep. And you have, if you slow way down so that the delay doesn't hurt you, so you're going beep, beep. You know, if you slow way down, then it's you'll be able to pinpoint the target. But this thing has a wireless headphone technology or wireless technology that's special proprietary stuff, so that there's not a significant delay. So when you swing over it, it beeps, beeps, beeps right over the target. So there's nothing, oh, I got to slow way down, otherwise I'm going to be thinking the target is here and there and everywhere. So that's a special thing. It has a built-in GPS. So when you're out and about, you know, a lot of guys will take a GPS with them so they know where they're at and keep track of that. Well, this detector has a GPS built into it, and it'll keep track of where it's at for you and keep track of the path that you took. And you could actually download that onto a map and see, well, where was I today? You know, where did I actually wander through? You know, and you can download that, and the detector, like I say, has that GPS and tracking capacity built right into it. It also has a really nice touchscreen. So all the different options of how you want to set it up, you can all do it just really easy on a touchscreen. And no scrolling through different menus. Well, there's different menus on the touchscreen, but there's not button to advance to different settings, and you know button down or to get to another one. You can just choose things on the touchscreen. Pretty cool. So another thing that it has, another feature that the world's most powerful metal detector has, is it has a really great ground balance system. It's automatic tracking, so you don't have to constantly be adjusting the ground balance or thinking, oh, do I need to check the ground balance and pump it? And it automatically ground balances to its own right setting. It has on the touchscreen 3 different types of ground settings. You only have a choice of 3, and basically it's really mild soils that are low mineralization, a soil that's kind of a medium mineralization, and soils that are really bad. And really, this is kind of a really, really bad or really, really mild. Most of the time, I run in the middle one, okay? Because most gold fields have some mineralization. They're not near zero. And unless you're in Australia or some other places where it's super bad, you probably don't need the really strong ground mineralization. But it's a great system. It's self-tracking, and it works really well. Another feature that it has is the automatic canceling of electromagnetic noise. Now, we don't normally notice this, and in most detectors, it's really not a big concern. The electromagnetic noise of radio waves and other TV transmission and other kinds of electronic cell phone transmission, it's not going to affect your detector that much. Although I will tell you, you don't want to be having a cell phone on you while you're using this detector, because just the transmission of the cell phone will interfere some. But it has this system to automatically to cancel that noise. And so, because when you get basically the world's most powerful metal detector, yeah, you're going to start hearing every little thing. You're going to hear all those. I mean, it's not like you're going to hear a radio signal from 100 miles away, but what you're going to hear is, noise in your metal detector that's caused not by the ground or any target, but just caused by the electromagnetic waves that are everywhere. Okay? So another feature that it has is that it has an optional really big coil. I got one of those and I'll show it to you in a minute. But with that really huge coil, it has amazing depth. It has surprising depth with just the regular standard coil, which I'm going to show you. But with the big coil, it's even deeper. So what is it? We've talked about it quite a bit. What is the world's most powerful metal detector? Well, I'm going to show you. So, what is the world's most powerful metal detector? This is it. It's Minelab's GPZ 7000. It's a detector that I've been involved with for a long time. The standard coil, you can see, is really big. And there actually isn't a smaller coil, but that's a whole nother issue that, well, it belongs in the disadvantages category that we're going to talk about in a minute. But this is an awesome coil. It has found for me, this detector, nuggets that I was shocked at how deep they were. Because, hey, look, I've been detecting for nuggets for decades and prospecting for, without a metal detector for a lot longer than that. And so I know what detectors are capable of and what they're not capable of. And believe me, there's limits to everything, even to the world's most powerful metal detector. There's limits. And this detector has found me, every year that I've had it, it's found me gold that I'm just shocked that it was able to find. So let me tell you a little bit about my experiences with it and show you some of the gold that I found with the world's most powerful metal detector. Here are some nice, really big, chunky nuggets that I found with this detector. Truly, it's an amazingly powerful detector. I was able to find some of these bigger nuggets at depths that are just really surprising. So this is to go to show you that 3.5 ounces of gold, well, that's quite a bit of money. And the big nuggets that I found, they were down deep, and so it was quite a find, and surprised me quite a bit by how powerful this detector really is.
Here's an example of some wiry and mossy gold, the type that this detector just excels on. It really beats anything hand down for depth of detection on this kind of gold. It does better than anything else on the chunky stuff, but it just does amazing on this wiry stuff. You see, the solid stuff, most detectors, just about any detector, will sound off a lot better on stuff that's solid than this wiry or mossy type of gold. So a lot of times this gold, when it occurs, just gets left behind in the ground. The biggest piece that's shown here up in the upper left-hand corner is over 20 grams. That means it's over 2/3 of an ounce. That's a $1,000 nugget just for the gold, and then on top of which that kind of wiry crystalline pattern would fetch a higher specimen value as well. So this is a pretty spectacular example of what this detector can do.
And here is that extra large coil, the coil that comes with it, or it doesn't come with it, it's an accessory coil. And this thing can give you amazing depth. Look how huge it is. It's just gigantic. And of course, you know the old rule that bigger coils give you deeper detection on larger targets. So if you want to go for the smallest targets, this isn't your first choice. But if you're going for the depth and penetration on bigger nuggets and other targets, this is an amazing tool. So it's available as an accessory, and honestly, I think it's well worth it. Okay, so I've told you a little bit about my success with this detector, and like I say, I've found with it nuggets that could not be found with any other metal detector on the market. It's just amazing on gold that's a little bit mossy or wiry, a specimen type gold. It's just beats everything on the market hands down. And even on more solid stuff, it is an amazing detector. That's why I think legit, it's the world's most powerful metal detector. Now, even though it's an amazing detector, it has its limitations. One of the limitations is that thing is heavy. It's heavy. Now, if you're just gonna like check a hole, like I used it this summer to check some holes that I've dry washed, and I found gold with it, gold that I wouldn't have found otherwise. I checked around in areas that were overgrown with growth and went over the top of it with this coil, and because of the growth, you know, the coil had to be 4 or 5 inches off the ground surface. It still found nuggets down quite a ways deep into the soil, even though it had to be up so far above the soil because of the ground cover. So it's heavy, and if you're just going out for a short check of a hole, then you don't need the support, because I can hold it for a while here. But if you're going to go out and detect for half a day or a few hours or whatever, you have to wear a harness. And in fact, it comes with a harness because they realize that. In addition to being the most powerful detector on the market, it's also the heaviest. and with the big optional, the accessory coil, it's even heavier. So it has a disadvantage in its weight. It also has a disadvantage in that there is no small coil available. This standard coil is the smallest coil available. Users in America have long asked, hey, can't you get us a coil that's a little smaller than this? Because, when you're trying to fit in between rocks and under bushes, through bushes and that kind of stuff, this is a really big coil to be working with. A lot of prospectors are used to using coils smaller than this. So that's a disadvantage. Another disadvantage is that there is no discrimination mode. There's none whatsoever. If it beeps, you got to dig it. So, I have this discussion with a lot of guys, a lot of prospectors, and most prospectors will tell you, dig it all. That's discrimination, never use it. And for most places, you know, where there's mild to moderate trash, yeah, I agree. You should dig it all. So discrimination isn't going to do you any good. But there are places that are just loaded, overloaded with trash. And, you know, when it's overloaded with trash, having an option of some discrimination and a smaller coil is helpful, because when you get in a super trashy area with this, you may be seeing 2 or 3 or 4 trash targets at once with this coil, depending on where where the trash is and where your coil is. And when you're seeing multiple targets with a coil, it's just really confusing to the coil, because you're getting signals from here and there and everywhere. So when you're doing trashy areas, you want super trashy, real trashy. If it's not super trashy, don't use the discrimination. But if it is super trashy and you're hunting there, you want a detector that has the capacity to do some discrimination. Now, I did a special video on how to achieve accurate discrimination, how to understand discrimination on metal detectors that have it. Not like this one doesn't have it. But on the ones that do, you know, it's worth understanding how those work. And I'm going to put a link to that right up here. And you should check that out if you have any interest. If your detector has discrimination and you want to know how to use it better and get better results with it, check that out, because you'll learn a lot. Now, finally, the last thing that I want to mention as far as disadvantages of this detector, it's really expensive. It is not cheap. As I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you want the best of something, no matter what hobby you're interested in, or no matter what your work is or line of work, you know, if you're a professional electrician, you want the best of tools. You don't want a $9.99 voltmeter from Walmart. You want some standard, you know, one that's made for everyday use. And this is a detector made, like I say, to be the world's most powerful metal detector. But it comes with the world's most powerful price. So that's another disadvantage of this, is that it's not cheap. So I want to consider, like I say, I've considered the world's most powerful metal detector, and I want to say that there is no such thing as one detector that does everything perfectly. I mean, think about it like this. If you went to a car dealer and you said, hey, I want a car that's sporty and super fast. Well, the car dealer would say, oh, yeah, we got some sports cars over here. And then you'd say, well, I want it to be super fast, but I've got a family of 4 kids and my wife, so I want it to be able to fit 6 people, me and my wife and my 4 kids. The guy would be going, sporty and fits 6. And then you'll say, well, I like to do off-roading, so I want it to be able to go anywhere and drive anywhere and be an off-road vehicle. And I want it to be luxurious on the inside. And, by the way, I want to get 50 miles to the gallon. By then, the car salesman's going to be laughing at you and saying, yeah, there's no such thing as a car that does all those things. You know, you can get a car that gets 50 miles to the gallon, maybe. You can get a car that has off-wheel or off-road capability and can go, you know, just about anywhere. That's possible. You can get cars that are luxurious and will fit the family of 6. Okay. You can get a sports car that races really fast and you could take it down to the track and race it and win some awards with it. Yeah, maybe. But you're not going to get it all rolled into one. And it's the same with metal detectors. There's no one detector that's good for everything and can do everything perfectly. Yeah, no such beast. That doesn't exist. This is the world's most powerful metal detector. Like I say, this is not a sponsored video. I'm doing this because it's my opinion. It's my opinion after using this for years. And I've used other detectors, both by MindLab and by other people and that kind of stuff. And yeah, this is the world's most powerful metal detector. So the best use for this detector is really in kind of open areas, like open desert areas. There's a lot of open desert areas like that in Australia, but there's a lot of them in the Southwest, in desert parts of California and Nevada and Arizona. some parts of Oregon and Idaho and a few other places. Um, because of the big coil, it's not great for areas with tight rocks and boulders and fitting it in around, trees and that kind of stuff. That's really not the best environment for this. It's also best environment for deep stuff where there's not huge amounts of trash because it has no discrimination. Huge amounts of trash are tough. It's because of the way the coil's designed, it's a little bit more difficult to pinpoint the targets, and takes a little bit more practice to pinpoint targets, especially really small ones. And it's amazing the small bits of gold that it'll find, but you may find yourself chasing around those little bits of gold for a little bit longer than you might expect. It just is a little bit more difficult to pinpoint. But it works well, and I've found really small gold with this. So it is the world's most powerful metal detector. And like I say, open areas without huge amounts of trash and gold that may be deep, because this thing sees amazingly deep. Those are the best areas for it. Now, if you want to learn to become a better prospector overall, you want to up your skills and make yourself a better metal detector operator and find more gold and have more success with that, I wrote a book about gold and about finding gold. It's called Fistful of Gold. It's got everything you need in it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it right now.
Okay, so I wanted to tell you a little bit more about my book. I wanted to be able to share the knowledge that I've gained about finding gold and how to be successful. And so I spent years literally writing this book, Fistful of Gold. It's more than 350 pages long, which is why I say it's an encyclopedia of everything you need to know about finding your own gold. I've sold more than 8,000 copies, and I've got a lot of really great feedback on it. It just is the most complete book on the market. It has information about finding gold that literally is not available in any other book that you're going to find for prospectors, because I took technical stuff from geologists and other mineral scientists, and I've translated that into language that the average guy can understand. You don't need a PhD to go out and find gold, but the information that scientists have learned over recent decades can be of a lot of help to people. So it's in this book. If you're interested about finding gold, panning, sluicing, nugget detecting, dry washing, the geology of gold deposits and how they form, it's all in here. And like I say, it's more than 350 pages long. So if you'll just go to the description underneath this video, you can take a look. I've got a link in there to take you to Amazon, to the site where the book is sold. And I think you'll really enjoy it. Take a look at all the people who've commented on this and have really liked the book. It has a very, very high rating for a book. And also, I have a website, my own free website that you can take a look at. I've got all kinds of information on here about doing research and how to find gold, a lot of good information, stuff that basically couldn't fit into my book. And so I put it on this website, and I have a link also for that in the video description. So take a look in the description, and you can click on the link, and it'll take you to my website. And finally, if you like this presentation, I've got a lot more coming out. Here's a 3.5 ounces of gold that I found a couple years back in one area. I've got a lot more of these videos coming on gold, gemstones, hard rock, placer, a lot of metal detecting. There'll be lots of metal detecting stuff. So if you really enjoyed this, click the subscribe button and then tick the notification bell off, and YouTube will let you know when I publish new stuff. And hit the like button as well. And please comment on these videos, because I'm interested in what you have to say, and I promise to answer any questions you have. So if you are wondering about anything, or think maybe I didn't cover something thoroughly enough in a video, then let me know, and I'll be happy to try and help you out and give you whatever information you need. So thanks a lot, and hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you again real soon.